The deep space exploration vessel, New Sol, moved slowly through the dark void between stars. Captain So Young stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the main screen. She had been in space for 15 years, but the beauty of the galaxy still amazed her. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings," said Communications Officer Taemin from his station. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "There are ships ahead. Big ones." So Young walked over to look at his screen. The readings showed 5 massive objects moving toward them. They were much larger than any human ship she had ever seen. "How big are they?" she asked. "Each one is about 10 times the size of our ship," replied Taemin. His voice was worried. Commander Hyunwoo came up beside them. He was So Young's second in command and had been her friend for many years. "Should we change course?" he asked quietly. So Young thought for a moment. This was what they came out here for, to explore and maybe find other intelligent life. "No," she said. "This might be first contact. Get ready to send our friendship messages." The New Sol was not alone. 2 smaller escort ships, the Busan and the Daegu, flew with them. Both ships moved closer to the main vessel as the unknown objects came nearer. "Sir, I'm getting a better look at them now," said scanner operator Jin Ho. "They're beautiful. The ships look like they're made of crystal." On the main screen, the alien ships became clear. They were indeed made of what looked like blue crystal that shined with its own light. The ships had sharp edges and strange curves that hurt to look at for too long. "Open a channel," So Young ordered. "Send our first contact package." Taemin began sending the messages that Earth had prepared for this moment. Mathematical sequences that showed human intelligence. Pictures of Earth and its people, music and art, simple drawings that explained human peaceful intentions. The alien ships stopped moving toward them. For a few minutes, nothing happened. Then the crystal ships began to glow brighter. "Captain, they're responding," Taemin said with excitement. "They're sending— Wait, this doesn't look like a message." The glow from the alien ships became very bright. Suddenly, a beam of pure energy shot out from the largest crystal ship. It hit the escort ship Busan directly. The Busan exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space. 23 human lives ended in a single second. "What the hell?" shouted Hyunwoo. "So Young, they just killed our people!" Before anyone could react, another energy beam destroyed the Daegu. 30 more humans died. "Battle stations!" So Young screamed. "All weapons! Fire at will!" The New Sol was not a warship, but it had some defensive weapons. The crew fired everything they had at the crystal ships. Their weapons hit the alien vessels but seemed to do no damage at all. "Our weapons aren't working," reported Weapons Officer Dong-sik. "Their shields are too strong." More energy beams came from the alien ships. These did not try to destroy the New Sol. Instead, they hit the human ship's engines and weapons. The TI's ship stopped moving and could no longer fight. "They're disabling us," said Hyunwoo. "They want to capture us." Strange metal arms came out of the largest crystal ship. They grabbed the New Sol and pulled it inside a huge opening in the alien vessel. So Young looked around the bridge. Her crew was scared but still at their stations. "Everyone listen to me," she said in a calm voice. "We are the first humans to meet aliens. Whatever happens, remember that we represent all of humanity." The crystal ship's metal arms brought the New Sol into a massive space inside the alien vessel. Bright lights came on, and the humans could see that the inside of the alien ship was also made of crystal. Suddenly, the bridge filled with a strange gas. The crew began to feel sleepy. "Captain," Taemin said, his words becoming slow, I sent our location back to Earth before they disabled our communications. Earth will know what happened. As the gas made them unconscious, So Young saw tall figures moving toward their ship. The aliens were much bigger than humans and looked like they were made of the same blue crystal as their ships. They moved with purpose and showed no emotion. When So Young woke up, she was in a crystal cage. The walls were clear but very strong. She could see her crew in other cages around her. They were all alive, which surprised her. A massive alien stood outside her cage. It was over 8 feet tall and looked like a walking crystal statue. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. "Small creature," it said in perfect English. "I am War Commander Vextar of the Vorthak Empire. Your species is now known to us." "I am Captain So Young of the Human Space Navy," she replied, standing as tall as she could. "Why did you attack us?" "We came in peace," the alien made, a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace! We do not understand this word. We are the Vorthak. We take what we want. We destroy what we do not need." "How many worlds have you conquered?" So Young asked. 847 star systems bow to the Vorthak Empire," Vextar said with pride. "Soon it will be 848. So Young felt cold fear in her heart. This alien was talking about conquering Earth and all human worlds. "Your species interests us," Vextar continued. "You are small and weak, but you have traveled between stars. We will study you before we take your worlds." "Earth will fight you," So Young said. "Humans don't give up easily." Vextar moved closer to her cage. "All species say this at first. The Zalani said they would fight forever. We conquered them in 2 of your months. The Keth claimed their technology was superior. We enslaved them in 3 months. The synthetic robots believed they were perfect. Warriors. They shut themselves down rather than face us. The alien's crystal body glowed brighter. Your species will surrender or die. There is no other choice. The Vorthak have never failed to conquer a world." So Young looked at her crew. They were all listening. She knew that whatever she said now would be important. "You don't understand humans," she said firmly. "We may be small and weak compared to you, but we have something you don't." "What is that, small creature?" "We never surrender, ever, even when we should, even when it makes no sense. Humans will fight you until the last person dies. And even then, somehow, someone will keep fighting." Vextar stared at her for a long moment. "We shall see. Your home world will be the first to fall. Perhaps watching its destruction will teach you the value of surrender." As the alien walked away, So Young pressed against the crystal wall of her cage. She called out to her crew, "Everyone listen to me. Taemin got our message to Earth. They know about these aliens now. No matter what happens to us, Earth will be ready. And these crystal bullies are about to learn what humans are really made of." The crew looked at their captain. Despite being prisoners on an alien ship, facing an enemy that had conquered hundreds of worlds, So Young was smiling. Hyun-woo managed a small laugh. "I almost feel sorry for them." "Why?" asked Taemin. "Because," Hyun-woo said, "they have no idea what they just started." In the darkness of space, the crystal ships of the Vorthak Empire began their journey toward Earth. Behind them, they left the wreckage of 2 human ships and 53 dead humans. But they also left something else. They left humanity with knowledge of their existence, their power, and their intentions. And humanity, as Captain So Young had warned, never surrendered. The Galactic Council met on Nexus Prime, a planet that served as the center of trade and diplomacy for dozens of alien species. Ambassador Jun-Ho walked through the massive halls, still amazed by the different creatures he saw. Some flew, some crawled, and some looked like living plants. But today, none of them looked happy. Jun-Ho was the first human ambassador to the Galactic Council. He had arrived only 6 months ago, excited to represent humanity among the stars. Now he sat in an emergency meeting that would decide the fate of his entire species. "The message from your exploration ship has been confirmed," said Council Leader Thais. She was a tall, thin alien with green skin and 4 arms. "The Vorthak Empire knows about humanity now." Around the circular meeting hall, representatives from many species sat in worried silence. Jun-Ho noticed that many seats were empty. "Where are the others?" he asked. "Gone," replied Ambassador Krell of the Zalani. The Zalani looked like humans, but had silver skin and larger eyes. "Destroyed by the Vorthak, or fled to places where even we cannot find them." Ambassador Zaris of the Keth floated near the ceiling. The Keth were energy beings that lived in mechanical suits. "The Vorthak do not negotiate," Zaris said in a voice like static. "They do not show mercy. They conquer or they destroy. There is no middle path." Jun-Ho stood up. "Tell me about them. Everything you know." Council Leader Thais activated a holographic display in the center of the hall. Images of crystal ships and tall alien warriors appeared. "The Vorthak Empire has existed for over 2,000 of your years," Thais began. "They are a species of living crystal beings. Their technology is based on harmonic resonance and energy manipulation. They are physically stronger than most species and live much longer." The hologram showed scenes of space battles. Crystal ships destroyed fleets of other vessels with ease. "But their greatest weapon is not their technology," continued Thais. "It is their method of conquest. They study each species carefully. They learn exactly how to break their will to fight." "What do you mean?" asked Jun-Ho. Ambassador Krell spoke up. "When they came to our world, they did not attack our military first. They destroyed our art museums, our music halls, our centers of learning. They knew that we Zalani value culture above all else. The hologram showed beautiful cities being reduced to ash. For my people, the Keth," said Zaris, "they attacked our power sources. We are beings of pure energy. Without power, we die slowly and painfully. Rather than watch our children fade away, we surrendered." Jun-Ho felt sick. "How many species have they conquered?" 847 confirmed star systems, replied Thais. "But the real number is likely higher. Some species are wiped out so completely that we never learn they existed." A new voice spoke from across the hall. "They never lose." Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Ambassador Zenth of the Mechanical Collective. The synthetics were robots who had gained consciousness millions of years ago. "We synthetics believed we were superior to biological life," Zenth continued. "Our logic was perfect. Our technology was advanced. When the Vorthak came, we calculated that we could defeat them. The robot's metal face somehow managed to look sad. We were wrong. They destroyed half our population in the first day. The rest of us, we chose to shut down our consciousness rather than be enslaved. Better to die as free machines than live as Vorthak tools." Jun-Ho sat back down, feeling overwhelmed. "Has anyone ever successfully fought them?" "No," said Thais. "The longest any species has resisted is 6 months. That was the Drakmori, who were known as the greatest warriors in this part of the galaxy. What happened to them? Extinct, replied Krell quietly. Junho looked around the hall. So what are you telling me? That humanity should just surrender? Without fighting? Council Leader Theiss activated another part of the holographic display. It showed star charts and battle plans. We are telling you to be smart, she said. Look at this data. Every species that has fought the Vorthak has followed the same pattern. First, they refuse to surrender. Second, they fight bravely for a few months. Third, they realize they cannot win. Fourth, they surrender or die. Senior researcher Dayun, who had come with Junho from Earth, studied the data carefully. She was one of Earth's best military analysts. I see the pattern, Dayun said slowly. Every species fights like they would fight others of their own kind. They use logic and strategy that makes sense to them. Exactly, said Thess. And the Vorthak have seen every strategy before. They know how each type of species will react. Junho stood up again. Then we won't react like the others. Human Junho, said Ambassador Zaris. Your species is brave. We have learned this from our cultural exchanges. But bravery alone is not enough. The Vorthak have weapons that can destroy planets, ships that cannot be damaged by conventional weapons, warriors who do not feel fear or pain. They also have something else, added Krell. They have the knowledge of how to defeat every type of fighting style in the galaxy. Your species is new to space. You have no experience with this level of warfare. Daun was still studying the battle data. May I ask something? She said. Of course, replied Thys. This data shows that every species eventually surrendered or was destroyed. But it doesn't show any species that fought differently. What do you mean? Asked Zenth. I mean illogically. Every battle plan here makes perfect sense. Every strategy is logical and well planned. What if a species fought in a way that made no sense at all? The alien ambassadors looked confused. Humans sometimes do things that are completely illogical, Daun continued. We fight when we should run. We attack when we should defend. We never give up even when giving up is the smart thing to do. That is not a strength, said Theiss. That is a weakness that will get your species destroyed faster. Junho smiled for the first time since the meeting began. You're thinking like logical beings, like every other species the Vorthak have fought. He walked to the center of the hall, near the holographic display. Let me tell you about human history. We once had a war where soldiers charged across open fields into machine gun fire. It was stupid and got millions killed, but they kept doing it. The aliens listened carefully. We had another war where pilots flew explosive planes directly into enemy ships. It was suicide, but it worked. We've had people fight with sticks against enemies with guns. We've had outnumbered armies win battles by doing exactly what no smart general would do. And this helps you how? Asked Zaris. Because, said Junho, the Vorthak have never fought a species that doesn't make sense. They've conquered logical species, smart species, powerful species, but they've never fought humans. Daun nodded. What if they can't predict us because we don't even predict ourselves? Council Leader Theiss looked very worried. Human Ambassador, we understand your desire to save your species, but you are talking about fighting the most powerful empire in the galaxy with randomness? No, said Junho. We're talking about fighting them with something they've never encountered. Humans who refuse to quit even when quitting makes sense. The meeting hall was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Ambassador Krell spoke. If you choose to fight, you will be alone. The Council cannot help you. We have our own surviving populations to protect." "We understand," replied Jun-Ho. "Your species will likely be destroyed," added Xeris. "Maybe," said Jun-Ho. "But maybe not. And maybe our example will show other species that the Vorthak can be fought." As the meeting ended, Jun-Ho and Da-Un prepared to return to Earth. They had a lot to report, and very little time. "Do you really think we can win?" Da-Un asked as they walked to their ship. Jun-Ho thought for a moment. "Win? I don't know. But I know humans won't go quietly. And sometimes, that's enough." Behind them, the alien ambassadors watched the humans leave. Many of them were thinking the same thing. These humans had no idea what they were facing. But few were thinking something else. Maybe that was exactly what the galaxy needed. President Min-Ho sat in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the Capitol building. The room was filled with Earth's top military leaders, scientists, and government officials. On the main screen, Ambassador Jun-Ho appeared from his ship returning, from Nexus Prime. "Mr. President," Jun-Ho said, "the situation is worse than we thought. The Vorthak Empire has never lost a war. Every species that has fought them is either dead or enslaved." General Hei-Wan, the highest-ranking military officer on Earth, leaned forward. "What are their capabilities?" "According to the Galactic Council, they have weapons that can destroy planets. Their ships cannot be damaged by normal weapons. Each Vorthak warrior is stronger than 10 humans and lives for thousands of years." The room was quiet for a moment. Then President Min-Ho spoke. "How long do we have?" "Based on the distance from where they captured our people, about 8 months before they reach Earth," replied senior researcher Da-Yun through the video link. Defense Minister Sang-Woo shook his head. 8 months to prepare for an enemy that has conquered 800 worlds. This is impossible." "Nothing is impossible," said President Min-Ho firmly. "We just have to think differently than everyone else has." Admiral Jin-Woo stood up. He commanded Earth's Space Navy, which had only 50 ships. "Sir, our entire space fleet could not fight one of their ships based on what we've learned. We need a completely different approach." Engineer Young-Soo, who designed Earth's most advanced ships, was studying data on his tablet. "Mr. President, I've been looking at the technical information from our captured ship. Their weapons use energy frequencies we've never seen before. Can we copy their technology?" asked General Hei-Wan. "Maybe some of it," replied Young-Soo. "But not in 8 months. It would take years to understand how it works." Dr. Yunji, Earth's top scientist, raised her hand. "What if we don't try to match their technology? What if we use our own strengths?" "What do you mean?" asked President Min-Ho. "Humans are good at improvising. We're good at using simple things in clever ways. Every other species tried to fight. The Vorthak with advanced technology. What if we fight them with basic technology used in new ways?" General Hei-Wan looked skeptical. "You want to fight spaceships with primitive weapons?" "Not primitive," said Dr. Yunji. "Simple. There's a difference. Simple weapons can be mass-produced quickly. Simple weapons can be understood and fixed by anyone. Simple weapons can be hidden and moved easily." Admiral Jin-Woo began to understand. "You're talking about guerrilla warfare. In space." "Exactly," said Dr. Yunji. "Every species the Vorthak fought tried to defend their home worlds with big fleets and strong defenses. What if we don't do that?" President Min-Ho stood up and walked to the star map on the wall. "Explain." "We scatter," said Admiral Jin-Woo, catching on to the idea. "We don't put all our ships in one place where they can be destroyed together." "We hide," added Engineer Young-Soo. "We build secret bases on asteroids and empty planets." "We run," said General Haywan, starting to smile. "We hit them and disappear before they can hit back." President Minho nodded. This could work, but it means giving up Earth. The room became quiet again. Giving up Earth meant letting the Vorthak conquer their home world. Not giving up, said Dr. Yunji. Abandoning. There's a difference. If we evacuate most people and leave only volunteers to fight, Earth becomes a trap instead of a target. A trap? Asked Defense Minister Sang-woo. Think about it, Dr. Yunji continued. They expect us to defend Earth with everything we have. Instead, we let them take it. But we fill it with surprises, hidden weapons, booby traps, volunteers who know they're going to die but want to hurt the enemy as much as possible. Admiral Jinwoo was getting excited. And while they're busy conquering Earth, our real forces are spread across 100 different locations. They can't find us all. This plan has a problem, said General Haywan. It requires us to let billions of people be conquered or killed. No, said President Minho. It requires us to evacuate billions of people. We start moving people to colony worlds and hidden bases right now. Anyone who wants to leave can leave. And those who stay? Asked Defense Minister Sang-woo. Fight, said President Minho simply. Young-soo was already making notes on his tablet. We'll need thousands of small ships instead of a few big ones. Ships that can be built quickly and hidden easily. We'll need weapons that work in space, but don't look like space weapons, added Dr. Yunji. Mining charges, industrial lasers, construction equipment that can be turned into weapons. We'll need communication systems they can't track, said Admiral Jinwoo. Networks that work even if they destroy our main bases. General Haiwan stood up. This is the craziest military plan I've ever heard. It goes against every rule of warfare. Good, said President Minho. That means the Vorthak won't expect it. Over the next hour, they worked out the basic plan. It had a name, Operation Scattered Seeds. The idea was simple. Instead of one strong defense, they would create thousands of weak defenses. Instead of protecting Earth, they would abandon it and fight from everywhere else. Instead of trying to win big battles, they would win tiny battles over and over again. We'll need volunteers, said General Haywan. People willing to stay on Earth and fight even though they'll probably die. We'll have volunteers, President Minho said with certainty. Humans are good at fighting hopeless battles. We'll need colony ships, said Admiral Jinwoo. Hundreds of them, to move people to safe places. We'll build them, said Young-soo. Simple ships, fast ships, ships that can carry families to new homes. We'll need weapons, said Dr. Yunji. Weapons that work but don't look like weapons. We'll make them, said General Haiwan. If a mining laser can cut through rock, it can cut through alien ships. As the meeting continued, more and more details were planned. They would evacuate Earth's children first, then the elderly and sick, then anyone who wanted to leave. The ones who stayed would be volunteers who knew the risks. They would build hidden bases on dead planets and inside asteroids. They would create secret factories that could build weapons and ships. They would train ordinary people to fight in space. Most importantly, they would never surrender. Even if Earth fell, even if half their people died, even if it seemed hopeless. There's one more thing, said President Minho as the meeting was ending. We need to record everything. Our history, our culture, our knowledge. If humanity is destroyed, someone should know we existed. Where should we keep these records? Asked Dr. Yunji. Everywhere, replied President Minho. In every hidden base, on every ship, with every group of refugees. The Vorthak might destroy our worlds, but they can't destroy our memory if it's scattered across the galaxy. As the meeting broke up, each person had a job to do. General Heiwan would begin training civilian volunteers for combat. Admiral Jin Woo would start building the new fleet of small ships. Young-Soo would design weapons that could be mass-produced quickly. Dr. Yunji would coordinate the evacuation of Earth's population. That night, President Minho stood on the balcony of his office looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, crystal ships were coming to destroy everything he loved, but humanity would be ready. Not with superior technology or military might, but with something the Vorthak had never faced before. A species that became more dangerous. When cornered, his assistant, Secretary Bo Young, came out to join him. "Sir, the evacuation announcements are ready. Should we broadcast them?" President Minho nodded. "Tell the people the truth. Tell them what's coming. Tell them they can leave if they want. And tell them that those who stay will have the chance to show the galaxy what humans are made of." "And if people panic?" asked Bo Young. President Minho smiled grimly. "Then they haven't been paying attention to human history. We don't panic. We get angry, and angry humans are the most dangerous thing in the universe." As he spoke, the first evacuation ships were already being loaded with families heading to distant worlds. Behind them, volunteers were signing up to stay and fight. The Vorthak Empire was about to learn that conquering humans was very different from conquering anyone else. The Vorthak fleet arrived at the edge of human space, like a crystal storm. War Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the star system that contained Earth. 50 massive crystal ships hung in space behind him, the largest invasion force he had ever commanded. "Begin the standard conquest pattern," Vextar ordered his warriors. "Destroy their orbital defenses, then their fleet. Once they see their military is defeated, they will surrender like all the others." But as the Vorthak ships moved toward Earth, something unexpected happened. The human fleet did not move to defend their planet. Instead, small groups of human ships scattered in different directions. Commander Seung-ho led one of these groups near Mars. His 5 ships were tiny compared to the crystal giants approaching them, but he had his orders. "All ships, remember? The plan," Seung-ho said into his communication device. "We're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to make them pay for every meter of space." The Vorthak ships opened fire with their energy weapons. Seung-ho's flagship exploded immediately. The 4 remaining ships attacked the nearest crystal ship with everything they had. Their weapons barely scratched the alien vessel's surface. But something strange happened. Instead of running away when they realized their weapons were useless, the human ships kept fighting. "Unknown behavior," reported Tactical Officer Crix to Vextar. "The small creatures continue attacking even though they cannot win." Vextar was not concerned. Many species fought bravely at first. "Destroy them all. Move to the next group." But the next group behaved the same way. Captain Mi Young's ships near Jupiter fought until every single vessel was destroyed. They never tried to retreat. They never asked for mercy. They just kept shooting until they died. "Sir," reported Crix, "we have destroyed 47 human ships, but something is wrong." "What do you mean?" asked Vextar. "They're not fighting like they want to win. They're fighting like they want to hurt us as much as possible before they die." Vextar studied the battle reports. It was true. The humans weren't using smart tactics. They weren't trying to protect their valuable ships. They were just attacking and attacking until they were destroyed. "This is inefficient behavior," Vextar said. "Proceed to their home world. Once we conquer it, the rest will surrender." But when the Vorthak fleet reached Earth, they found another surprise. The planet's orbital defenses were not the massive military stations they expected. Instead, hundreds of smaller installations surrounded the world. "Begin bombardment of their defense stations," ordered Vextar. The crystal ships fired their energy weapons at the human installations. Many were destroyed easily, but there were so many of them, and every time they destroyed one group, more installations appeared from behind asteroids and space debris. Defense Coordinator Namsik watched from his command station inside an asteroid near Earth. He was in charge of the planet's defenses, and he knew they couldn't win. But winning wasn't the point. "Activate Group 7, he ordered. "Draw their fire toward the old satellites." What the Vorthak didn't know was that many of the installations they were shooting were not weapons at all. They were old satellites, pieces of space junk and fake targets designed to waste alien ammunition. The real weapons were hidden inside asteroids, disguised as mining equipment, and built into the hulls of ships that looked abandoned. "Sir," reported his assistant, Technician Sun He, "they've destroyed 60% of our visible defenses." "Good," replied Namsik. "Now activate the invisible ones." Suddenly, what the Vorthak had thought were empty asteroids began firing mining lasers at their ships. Industrial equipment designed to cut through rock turned out to work very well on crystal hulls. For the first time in Vorthak history, their ships began taking damage from primitive weapons. "Impossible," said Vextar as he watched his ships' hull integrity readings drop. "Their technology is inferior. How are they damaging us?" Crick studied the sensor readings. "Sir, they're not using military weapons. These appear to be industrial tools modified for combat." "Industrial tools cannot damage Vorthak crystal hulls," Vextar stated. "Sir, they are," replied Crix, showing him the damage reports. Down on Earth's surface, factory worker Eugene was leading a group of volunteers in a secret weapons factory. They were building more modified mining equipment as fast as they could. "How many more laser drills can we finish today?" she asked her team. 25, replied worker Dongwu. "But we're running out of parts." "Then we'll make parts," said Eugene. "Use whatever we can find. If we can build it, we can turn it into a weapon." This was happening all over Earth. In every city, hidden factories were producing weapons that didn't look like weapons. Medical, lasers became sniper rifles. Construction equipment became artillery. Even civilian vehicles were being turned into military hardware. The Vorthak expected to face a military force. Instead, they were fighting an entire planet of people who refused to quit. As the space battle continued, Vextar received reports from his ship commanders. All of them were confused. "Sir, the humans are using suicide tactics," reported Captain Zexthon from the third crystal ship. "Their ships ram into us even when their weapons stop working." "Sir, their ground installations keep firing even after we damage them," said Captain Mordak from the seventh ship. "The creatures inside don't evacuate. They just keep fighting until the installation is completely destroyed." Vextar was beginning to feel something he had never experienced before: confusion. In 847 previous conquests, the pattern had always been the same: destroy the enemy's military and they surrender to protect their civilians, but the humans seemed to have no separation between military and civilians. Everyone was fighting. "Status report," Vextar demanded. "We have destroyed approximately 2,000 human installations and ships," reported Crix. "However, we have suffered damage to 31 of our vessels." Vextar stared at the report. 31 ships damaged by primitives? "Yes, sir. The damage is minor, but it exists. This has never happened before. On Earth's surface, Medical Officer Kyung Min was studying something that amazed her. She was a doctor who had volunteered to fight, and she was noticing something strange about the human fighters. The more hopeless the battle became, the harder they fought. The more friends they lost, the angrier they got. It was like humans became more dangerous when they were losing. "This doesn't make biological sense," she said to her assistant, Nurse Hayrin. "Most species become less effective when they're under extreme stress. Humans seem to become more effective." "Maybe that's why we're still fighting when everyone else would have given up," replied Hayrin. Back in space, Vextar was making a decision no Vorthak commander had ever been forced to make. He ordered a retreat to regroup. "Sir, we are retreating?" asked Crix in disbelief. "We are regrouping," Vextar corrected. "These creatures fight in ways we have never encountered. We will study their tactics and return with a better strategy." As the crystal ships pulled back from Earth, the humans didn't celebrate. They just kept building more weapons and planning more attacks. President Minho received the battle report in his underground command center. "How many did we lose?" he asked General Haywan. "About 3,000 fighters and most of our space defenses," replied the general. "And how many of them did we hurt?" 31 of their ships show damage. Minor damage, but damage. President?" Minho nodded. "Good. We've proven they can be hurt. Now we prove they can be beaten." As the Vorthak fleet regrouped at the edge of the solar system, Vextar studied the battle data. What he saw troubled him deeply. The humans had lost 90% of their forces, but they had damaged his ships. They had no hope of victory, but they kept fighting anyway. They seemed to get more dangerous as the situation became more hopeless. For the first time in his long life, War Commander Vextar felt something that no Vorthak had ever felt before. He felt doubt. And in the darkness of space around Earth, thousands of small human ships continued their attacks on the Crystal Fleet, like angry insects that refused to die. 3 months had passed since the Vorthak fleet had retreated from Earth. War Commander Vextar had expected the humans to use this time to rebuild their defenses, or perhaps finally surrender. Instead, they had done something no other species had ever done. They had attacked him. "Report!" Vextar demanded as alarms sounded throughout his flagship. "Sir, we are under attack by small human vessels," replied Tactical Officer Crix. "They appeared from behind the asteroid field." "How many ships?" 17, sir. All very small." Vextar looked at the display screen. The human ships were tiny compared to his crystal giants. Each one was smaller than his ship's weapon systems. "Destroy them," he ordered. But before his ships could fire, the human vessels did something unexpected. They split up and flew in completely random directions. Some flew straight at the Vorthak ships. Others flew away from them. A few seemed to be flying in circles. Resistance fighter Dongwu led one of these attack groups. His ship was built from spare parts and powered by a modified mining reactor. It should not have been able to fight in space, but somehow it worked. "Remember the plan," he told his crew over the radio. "We're not trying to make sense. We're trying to confuse them." His ship flew directly at the largest Vorthak vessel, then suddenly turned and flew sideways. Behind him, fighter pilot Han Sol was flying his ship backwards while shooting at nothing. Pilot Kyung-hee was spinning her ship in circles while dropping mines randomly. On the Vorthak flagship, Crix was trying to track the human ships. "Sir, I cannot predict their movement patterns. They appear to be flying randomly." "That is impossible," replied Vextar. "All combat has logic. All tactics have purpose." "Sir, These tactics have no purpose I can identify. While the Vorthak were trying to understand what the humans were doing, technician Sun Hee was working inside an asteroid near the battle. She had spent weeks preparing a special surprise for the crystal ships. "Are they in position?" she asked her assistant. "Yes, ma'am. The Vorthak ships are exactly where we want them." Sun Hee smiled and pressed a button. Around the battle area, dozens of asteroids suddenly exploded. But these weren't random explosions. Sun Hee had carefully placed mining charges to create a cloud of metal debris moving at high speed. The Vorthak ships, which were trying to track the randomly flying human vessels, suddenly found themselves in the middle of a metal storm. Their crystal hulls, designed to resist energy weapons, were not prepared for thousands of chunks of metal hitting them at incredible speeds. "Hull damage on ships 3, 7, and 12, reported Crix as the flagship shook from debris impacts. "How? Is this possible?" demanded Vextar. "They turned asteroids into weapons?" "It appears so, sir. But this is not a standard military tactic. That was exactly the point. Engineer Youngsu had designed the asteroid weapons based on a simple idea. If the Vorthak had never seen a tactic before, they couldn't defend against it. While the crystal ships dealt with the debris storm, the human fighters attacked. But they didn't attack the way any military force would. Instead of targeting weapons or engines, they attacked random parts of the ships. Fighter Dongwu fired his modified mining laser at what looked like a decoration on the side of a Vorthak ship. Fighter Hansol shot at communication arrays. Pilot Kyung-hee dropped explosives near waste disposal ports. None of these attacks should have been effective, but something strange was happening. Medical Officer Kyung-min was monitoring the battle from a hidden base on a nearby moon. She had been studying Vorthak technology and had made an interesting discovery. "I think I understand," she told her research team. "Their ships are living crystal. Everything is connected to everything else." "What does that mean?" asked Research Assistant Boram. "It means they don't have separate systems like we do. When we damage any part of their ship, it affects the whole ship." This explained why the random human attacks were working. The Vorthak had designed their ships to resist concentrated attacks on important targets. They had never considered what would happen if someone attacked unimportant targets all over the ship at the same time. As the battle continued, more human ships arrived. But these weren't military vessels either. They were civilian ships that had been converted into weapons. Cargo hauler Jae-hoon flew his converted transport ship directly at a Vorthak vessel. His ship was loaded with industrial chemicals that weren't meant to be weapons, but became weapons when mixed together. "This is Jae-hoon," he said into his radio. "Beginning final approach." He crashed his ship into the crystal vessel's hull. The industrial chemicals exploded, creating a reaction that ate through the crystal like acid. Factory worker Nam Sik followed in his converted manufacturing ship. Instead of chemicals, his ship was filled with tiny robots designed to repair machinery, but he had reprogrammed them to disassemble machinery instead. When his ship hit the Vorthak hull, thousands of repair robots scattered across the crystal surface and began taking the ship apart piece by piece. Vextar watched his fleet take damage from attacks that made no logical sense. "Status report," he demanded. "Sir, we have significant damage to 15 ships," reported Crix. "The humans are using everything as weapons." "Everything?" "Yes, sir. Repair robots, industrial chemicals, construction equipment, even garbage. They seem to turn anything into a weapon." On Earth, President Minho was receiving similar reports. The random attacks were working better than anyone had hoped. "How are our people doing this?" he asked Dr. Yoonji. "They're not following any plan," she replied. Each group is just using whatever they have available. It's pure improvisation. And it's working? It's working because the Vorthak have never faced improvisation before. They're prepared for logical attacks. They're not prepared for creative chaos. As the weeks passed, the attacks continued. Every day, small groups of humans would appear from different directions and attack in completely different ways. Sometimes, they used modified civilian equipment. Sometimes they used weapons made from spare parts. Sometimes they just rammed their ships into Vorthak vessels and exploded. The crystal ships were taking more and more damage, but that wasn't the worst part for Vextar. The worst part was that he couldn't predict what the humans would do next. "Sir," reported Captain Zexthon from the third crystal ship, "the humans attacked our waste disposal system with farming equipment." "Sir," reported Captain Mordak from the seventh ship, "they turned our own communication signals into weapons somehow." "Sir," reported Captain Velthar from the 12th ship, "they attacked us with music that disrupted our crystal resonance frequencies. Each attack was different. Each attack was impossible to predict. Each attack worked in ways that Vorthak science couldn't explain." Vextar began to realize something that terrified him. The humans weren't just fighting randomly. They were learning from each attack and getting better at finding new ways to hurt his ships. Hacker Boram had figured out how to turn Vorthak communication systems against them. Musician Tae Young had discovered that certain sound frequencies could crack crystal hulls. Even Chef Min Jung had found a way to turn food preservation chemicals into explosives. Every human seemed to be able to find a new way to fight. "Sir," said Crix during one of their daily briefings, "we need to consider retreat." Vextar stared at his tactical officer. "Retreat? The Vorthak Empire does not retreat." "Sir, we have been fighting these creatures for 3 months. Our ships are damaged. Our crews are confused. And the humans are getting stronger." "Getting stronger? We have destroyed thousands of their ships." "Yes, sir. But more keep coming, and each new group fights differently than the last. We cannot develop countermeasures for tactics that change every day." For the first time in Vorthak history, a war commander was considering something that had never been considered before: the possibility that they might not win. As Vextar studied the battle reports, he began to understand something terrible. The humans weren't just fighting for their planet, they were enjoying the fight. They celebrated when they damaged his ships. They laughed when their improvised weapons worked. They seemed to treat the impossible war like it was a game they were determined to win, and slowly, impossibly, they were winning. In the darkness of space around Earth, more human ships gathered for the next day's attacks. Each crew had their own plan. Each plan was different from all the others. The Vorthak had never faced anything like this before, and they were beginning to understand that they never wanted to face it again. Scientist Wu Jin had been working for 6 months on a problem that seemed impossible to solve. How do you defeat an enemy whose technology is thousands of years ahead of yours? The answer came to him while he was watching his daughter play with building blocks. She was building a tower, but instead of following the instructions, she was putting the blocks together in ways that made no sense. The tower looked wrong, but somehow it didn't fall down. "That's it," Wu Jin said suddenly. His research team looked up from their work. They were in a hidden laboratory inside an asteroid studying captured Vorthak technology. "What's it?" asked Research Assistant So Young. "We've been trying to understand their technology so we can copy it," Wu Jin explained. "But what if we use their technology in ways they never intended?" Dr. Yunji, who was visiting the laboratory, leaned forward with interest. "Explain." Wu Jin picked up a piece of Vorthak crystal technology. "This is a communication device. It's designed to send messages between ships using harmonic frequencies." "Yes, we know that," said So Young. But what if we don't use it to communicate? What if we use it to do something else entirely? Wu Jin connected the alien device to a human computer using wires and spare parts. The combination looked ridiculous. Advanced crystal technology held together with tape and human electronics. This shouldn't work, said Dr. Yunji. Exactly, replied Wu Jin. The Vorthak would never expect it to work. Their technology is designed to be logical and predictable. But humans are good at making things work even when they shouldn't. He activated the device. Instead of sending a communication signal, the modified crystal began interfering with other Vorthak technology in the laboratory. Their weapons stopped working correctly. Their computers began showing random information. You've turned their communication device into a jamming device, said Dr. Yunji with amazement. Better than that, said Wu Jin. I've turned it into a virus. If we can get this signal close to their ships, it will make all their technology behave unpredictably. Word of Wu Jin's discovery spread quickly through the human resistance network. Within days, similar devices were being built in secret laboratories. Across human space, pilot Han Sol was one of the first to test the new weapon. His modified fighter ship approached a Vorthak patrol vessel near Jupiter. Instead of attacking with conventional weapons, he activated Wu Jin's device. The results were immediate and spectacular. The Vorthak ship's energy weapons began firing, in random directions. Their navigation system started spinning the ship in circles. Their shields flickered on and off like broken lights. "Control! This is Han Sol," he reported over his radio. "The confusion device works. The alien ship is attacking itself." But the real breakthrough came when engineer Young Su realized something important about the way the device worked. "It's not just jamming their technology," he told the research team. "It's making their technology behave like human technology." "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Yunji. "Vorthak technology is designed to be perfect and predictable. Human technology is designed to be flexible and adaptable. When we force their systems to work like ours, they can't handle it." This discovery led to a new type of warfare that the Vorthak had never encountered. Instead of trying to destroy their ships, humans began trying to confuse them. Hacker Boram developed computer viruses that made Vorthak targeting systems aim at empty space. Musician Tae Young created sound weapons that made their crystal hulls vibrate at frequencies that caused hallucinations in Vorthak crews. Most importantly, the humans began sharing their discoveries with other species. Commander Jae-hoon, who now led a combined human-alien resistance fleet, brought the confusion devices to the Zalani refugees hiding in the Outer Rim. "You want us to make their technology act like yours?" asked Zalani Commander Thesara. "Exactly," replied Jae-hoon. "The Vorthak have never lost a war because they've always fought logical enemies. But what happens when they fight enemies who don't make sense?" The Zalani, who had fled their homeworld years ago, were amazed when the human devices allowed them to damage Vorthak ships for the first time. "This is impossible," said Thesara as she watched a Vorthak patrol ship fly in random circles. "Their technology is superior to ours." "Superior doesn't mean better," replied Jae-hoon. "It just means more complicated. And complicated things break more easily when you use them wrong." News of human successes spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had hidden for years began emerging from their hiding places. The mechanical synthetics, who had shut themselves down rather than face the Vorthak, began reactivating. Synthetic leader Zenth contacted the human resistance with a message that changed everything. "We have been watching your war," Zenth said through a communication link. "You have achieved something we calculated was impossible. You have made the Vorthak afraid." "Afraid?" asked President Minho from his command center on Earth. Yes. Fear is an emotion the Vorthak have never experienced. They have always been the strongest, the most advanced, the most powerful, but you have shown them that strength and technology are not enough. This information gave the humans a new understanding of their enemy. The Vorthak weren't just losing battles, they were losing their confidence. War Commander Vextar was experiencing this loss of confidence firsthand. For the first time in his 1,000-year life, he was afraid to give orders. "Sir, should we attack the human base on asteroid 4472? Asked Tactical Officer Crix. "What kind of defenses does it have?" replied Vextar. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors show mining equipment and civilian structures." That's what they said about the last base, and the base before that, and every base we've attacked for the past year. Vextar had learned that human bases never had the defenses they appeared to have. Sometimes mining equipment turned out to be weapons. Sometimes civilian structures exploded. Sometimes the entire asteroid was a trap. "Sir, we cannot continue avoiding engagement," said Crix. "The crew is beginning to question our tactics." The crew is beginning to question our tactics? Vextar repeated. "The crew has never questioned tactics before." "No, sir. But they have never fought an enemy like this before." That was the problem. The Vorthak military was built on certainty. Every battle plan was logical. Every strategy was predictable. Every victory was guaranteed. But humans had introduced something into warfare that the Vorthak couldn't handle: uncertainty. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Morclix, "we are receiving a message from the Vorthak High Command." Vextar read the message with growing dread. The High Command was asking questions. Why was the human conquest taking so long? Why were Vorthak ships being damaged by primitive weapons? Why were other species beginning to rebel? Most importantly, why were the humans still fighting after 2 years? "Prepare a response," Vextar ordered. Tell the High Command that... Tell them that humans are not like other species." "What should I say about them, sir?" Vextar thought for a moment. How could he explain to the High Command that humans fought harder when they were losing? How could he describe an enemy that turned everything into a weapon? How could he make them understand that the humans seemed to enjoy impossible battles? "Tell them," Vextar said slowly, "that humans do not follow the rules of warfare. They make up new rules every day." As he sent the message, Vextar realized something that terrified him. The humans weren't just winning battles anymore. They were changing the nature of war itself. Across the galaxy, other species were watching and learning. They were beginning to understand that the Vorthak could be beaten, not with superior technology or military might, but with creativity, determination, and the refusal to give up. The Vorthak Empire, which had conquered 847 star systems, was facing something it had never faced before: an enemy that became more dangerous every time it was defeated. And for the first time in their history, the Vorthak were beginning to wonder if they had chosen the wrong species to fight. The rebellion began in the Zalani system, where Commander Thess-Ara used human confusion devices to liberate her homeworld for the first time in 3 years. But it didn't stop there. Within weeks, every species that the Vorthak had conquered was rising up. The Keth energy beings, who had surrendered to protect their children, began attacking Vorthak power stations with weapons they learned to build from human designs. The mechanical synthetics came back online and started using human-style, random tactics that confused Vorthak computer systems. War Commander Vexitar received the reports with growing alarm. "Sir, we have uprisings in 47 systems," reported Tactical Officer Crix. "All of them are using human-style warfare." Human-style warfare? Vextar asked. Yes, sir. Unpredictable attacks, improvised weapons, tactics that make no logical sense but somehow work. Vextar studied the battle reports. In the Zalani system, rebels were using farming equipment as artillery. In the Keth territories, energy beings were possessing Vorthak computers and making them malfunction. In the synthetic sectors, robot armies were attacking in patterns that seemed random but were somehow effective. They're all fighting like humans, Vexitar realized. Yes, sir. The humans have taught them that our technology can be defeated, but the real problem wasn't just the rebellions. The real problem was that the Vorthak Empire was falling apart from within. Commander Hoon, who now led the largest resistance fleet in the galaxy, had been coordinating with rebel leaders across Vorthak space. His fleet was no longer just human ships. It included vessels from dozens of species who had learned to fight the Vorthak way. Status report, Hoon requested from his command ship, a modified human destroyer that had been upgraded with technology from 6 different species. Sir, we have confirmation of successful operations in 12 systems, reported Communications Officer Yuri. The Vorthak are withdrawing forces from conquered worlds to deal with the rebellions. Good. That means their forces are spread thin. Time for Phase 2. Phase 2 was something that no species had ever attempted. A direct attack on Vorthak. Supply lines. The Vorthak Empire was so large that it required constant supply ships moving between systems. Food, fuel, weapons, and replacement parts had to be transported across hundreds of light years. The rebels began attacking these supply convoys using the same tactics that had worked against Vorthak warships. They used confusion devices to make supply ships fly into asteroids. They used improvised weapons to damage cargo containers. They used captured Vorthak technology in ways it was never designed to work. Supply ship Captain Mordeth was one of the first to experience these attacks. His convoy was carrying crystal components to repair damaged warships when small human vessels appeared from hiding places in an asteroid field. Sir, we are under attack by primitive vessels, reported his navigation officer. Destroy them, Mordeth ordered. But when his ships fired their weapons, nothing happened. The humans had used confusion devices to make the weapons target empty space instead of enemy ships. Sir, our weapons are malfunctioning, reported the weapons officer. How is that possible? Before anyone could answer, the human ships began their attack. But instead of trying to destroy the supply convoy, they did something unexpected. They stole it. Using modified cargo equipment, the human ships attached themselves to the Vorthak supply containers and flew away with them. Sir, they're taking our supplies, reported the navigation officer. Follow them. But when the Vorthak ships tried to pursue, they discovered that the humans had also stolen their fuel containers. The supply convoy was stranded in space with no weapons and no fuel. This type of attack spread throughout Vorthak space. Supply convoys began disappearing. Communication networks stopped working. Even the most basic functions of the Empire started failing. Vextar was forced to make a decision that no Vorthak commander had ever made before. He requested reinforcements from the Vorthak High Command. You are requesting additional forces? Asked High Commander Zarketh through the communication link. Yes, sir. The human resistance has spread to our entire conquered territory. We need more ships to maintain control. How many ships? All of them, sir. There was a long silence on the communication link. War Commander Vextar, said Zarketh slowly. Are you telling me that one primitive species has forced the entire Vorthak military to focus on a single conquest? Vextar knew how bad this sounded. The Vorthak Empire was built on the ability to conquer multiple species simultaneously. If they had to use all their forces against humans, it meant they couldn't conquer anyone else. Sir, the humans have changed the nature of warfare. They have taught other species to fight in ways we cannot predict or counter. Impossible. The Vorthak military has conquered 847 systems. We do not lose wars. Sir, with respect, we have never fought a war like this one. The conversation ended with High Commander Zarketh agreeing to send reinforcements. But Vexatar could hear the doubt in his voice. For the first time in Vorthak history, the High Command was questioning the abilities of their military. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Min Ho was receiving the best news humanity had heard in 3 years. The Vorthak are withdrawing forces from the outer systems, reported General Haywan. Our rebellions are working. How many systems have been liberated? Asked Min Ho. 47 confirmed, with more declaring independence every day. The Vorthak can't control their empire and fight us at the same time. Dr. Yunji had more good news. Our confusion devices are working better than expected. We've identified 17 different ways to make Vorthak technology malfunction. And the other species? They're learning fast. The Zalani have developed their own versions of our devices. The Keth are teaching energy manipulation to other species. Even the synthetics are sharing programming techniques. But the best news came from engineer Young Su. I've been analyzing the Vorthak ships we've captured, he reported. Their technology isn't just advanced, it's fragile. It only works when everything is perfect. When we introduce chaos into their systems, everything breaks down. What does that mean? Asked President Min Ho. It means they're not as strong as they appear. Their entire civilization is built on the idea that technology can solve everything, but technology can't solve human creativity. As the war entered its 3rd year, something unprecedented was happening in the galaxy. The Vorthak Empire, which had seemed unstoppable for 2,000 years, was retreating on multiple fronts. Species that had been enslaved for decades were free again. Worlds that had been stripped of resources were being rebuilt. And throughout the galaxy, the word human was becoming synonymous with hope. But Vextar wasn't giving up. The High Command had sent him 500 additional crystal ships, the largest fleet in Vorthak history. He was going to end this war once and for all with a final assault on Earth itself. Prepare the fleet, he ordered. We will destroy the human homeworld and end this rebellion. Sir, said Crix hesitantly, the humans have had 3 years to prepare their defenses. Are we certain this attack will succeed? Vexatar looked at his tactical officer. A year ago, no Vorthak would have questioned a battle plan. Now, even his own crew was showing doubt. The humans cannot possibly defend against the entire Vorthak fleet, Vextar said, trying to convince himself as much as his crew. But as the massive crystal fleet began moving toward Earth, Vextar couldn't shake the feeling that he was making a terrible mistake. The humans had already done the impossible. They had survived 3 years against the most powerful empire in the galaxy. They had taught other species to rebel. They had turned Vorthak technology against itself. What if they had one more impossible trick waiting for him? In the darkness of space, 500 crystal ships moved toward Earth like a glowing storm. Behind them, throughout the galaxy, billions of beings watched and waited to see if the impossible could happen one more time. Could the species that refused to surrender actually win? The largest fleet in Vorthak history approached Earth like a crystal avalanche. 500 massive ships, each one capable of destroying a planet, moved through space with deadly purpose. War Commander Vextar stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the blue world grow larger on his screens. "Sir, we will reach Earth in 6 hours," reported Tactical Officer Crix. "Good," replied Vextar. "This time, we will not make the mistake of underestimating them. We will destroy everything." But as the Vorthak fleet drew closer to Earth, they began to see something that confused them. The planet was surrounded by what looked like a massive construction project. "Sir, the humans appear to have built some kind of structure around their world," reported scanner operator Thisal. Vextar studied the readings. Thousands of space stations, defensive platforms, and weapon installations surrounded Earth in layers. But something was wrong with the picture. "These defenses are too visible," he said. "The humans have learned to hide their weapons. Why are they showing us these ones?" He was right to be suspicious. What the Vorthak were seeing was the largest trap in human history. Captain Yuri commanded the defense coordination from a hidden base inside Earth's moon. She watched the Vorthak fleet approach and smiled grimly. "All stations, this is Yuri. The enemy is taking the bait. Prepare for Operation Last Stand." Throughout the solar system, human defenders waited at their positions. But these weren't the desperate volunteers who had fought 3 years ago. These were experienced warriors who had learned every trick of asymmetric warfare. Colonel Sung Min led the ground defenses on Earth itself. His forces were hidden in every city, every building, every tunnel on the planet. They had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. "Remember," he told his troops over the communication network, "they expect us to defend normally. Instead, we're going to show them what humans really are." As the Vorthak fleet entered Earth's defensive perimeter, they began their attack. Energy beams lanced out from the crystal ships, striking the visible human installations. The defenses exploded in spectacular displays of fire and light. Within minutes, the outer layer of Earth's defenses was completely destroyed. "Sir, we have destroyed their orbital defenses," reported Crix with satisfaction. "Excellent. Begin bombardment of the planetary surface." But as the Vorthak ships moved closer to Earth, something unexpected happened. The space around them suddenly filled with objects that hadn't been there before. "Sir, we have thousands of new contacts," reported scanner operator Thisal with alarm. "They're coming from everywhere." The truth was that the visible defenses had been decoys. The real defenses had been hidden inside asteroids, disguised as space debris and camouflaged to look like empty space. Engineer Young Soo had spent 3 years perfecting stealth technology that worked by being simple instead of advanced. Instead of sophisticated cloaking devices, human ships hid by looking like garbage. "All units, attack now," commanded Captain Yuri. Suddenly, what the Vorthak had thought was empty space filled with human ships, thousands of them, each one built from salvaged parts and improvised weapons. But these weren't suicide attacks like the early days of the war. These were coordinated strikes using 3 years of experience fighting Vorthak technology. Pilot Han Sol, now a veteran of dozens of battles, led his squadron directly at the flagship. His ship carried the most advanced confusion device ever built. "This is for everyone who died," he said as he activated the device. The effect was immediate. Every Vorthak ship in the area began malfunctioning. Their weapons fired at random targets. Their navigation systems spun them in circles. Their shields flickered on and off like broken lights. "Sir, all ships are reporting system failures," said Crix in panic. "Our technology is not responding to commands." But the confusion was just the beginning. As the Vorthak fleet struggled, With their malfunctioning systems, the real attack began. Human ships that had been hiding behind Earth's moon appeared and began attacking with weapons that shouldn't have existed. Scientist Wu Jin had spent 3 years developing new ways to use Vorthak technology against itself. "Fire the resonance weapons," ordered Captain Jae-hoon from his command ship. The resonance weapons were Vorthak communication devices that had been modified to shatter crystal hulls from the inside. When they fired, the crystal ships began developing cracks that spread like spider webs across their surfaces. "Impossible!" shouted Vextar as his flagship shuddered. "Our hulls are impenetrable!" "Sir, the humans are using our own harmonic frequencies against us," reported Crix. "They're making our hulls vibrate until they break apart." On Earth's surface, the ground battle was even more chaotic. Vorthak troops landed expecting to face human military forces. Instead, they found something that no Vorthak had ever imagined. Every human on Earth was fighting. Children threw improvised explosives from windows. Elderly people operated hidden weapon systems from their homes. Teachers used school chemistry, labs to make poison gas. Even pets had been trained to carry explosives to Vorthak soldiers. "Sir, we cannot establish control of any area," reported Ground Commander Zexthan. "The entire planet is hostile. Every building is a fortress. Every civilian is a warrior." Colonel Sung Min coordinated the defense from a command center that looked like an ordinary apartment building. "Remember, people," he said into his radio, "we're not trying to win. We're trying to make them pay for every meter." But something amazing was happening. The Vorthak soldiers, who had conquered hundreds of worlds, were encountering something they had never faced before, an enemy that laughed while fighting. Human fighters were actually enjoying the battle. They celebrated when they damaged Vorthak equipment. They cheered when their improvised weapons worked. They seemed to treat the invasion like it was the most fun they had ever had. Medical Officer Kyung Min, now leading a combat medical team, was treating wounded fighters in a subway tunnel that had been converted into a hospital. "How are you feeling?" she asked a wounded soldier. "Great," replied fighter Dongwu, despite having a broken arm. "Did you see that Vorthak ship explode? We actually made it explode." This attitude was spreading throughout the human forces. Instead of being afraid, they were excited. Instead of despair, they felt hope. The harder the battle became, the more determined they grew. Back in space, the Vorthak fleet was experiencing something that had never happened in their military history. They were losing. "Sir, we have lost 60 ships," reported Crix as another crystal vessel exploded from internal resonance damage. "The humans are destroying us faster than we can destroy them." Vextar watched his fleet fall apart around him. Ships that had conquered entire star systems were being destroyed by weapons, made from spare parts and creativity. "How many humans have we killed?" he asked. "Approximately 50,000, sir." "And how many are still fighting?" Crix checked his scanners. "All of them, sir. Every human on the planet is still fighting." That was when Vextar realized the truth. That would haunt him forever. The humans weren't fighting to win. They were fighting because they couldn't imagine doing anything else. On Earth's surface, President Min Ho emerged from his underground command center for the first time in months. He walked through the rubble-filled streets of the capital city, where human fighters were still battling Vorthak troops. "Mr. President!" called out fighter Namsik as he ran past carrying an improvised rocket launcher. "We're pushing them back." "Are we winning?" asked Minho. Namsik paused and thought for a moment. "I don't know if we're winning, sir, but we're definitely not losing." That was the difference. Other species fought until they realized they couldn't win. Then they surrendered. Humans fought until they won, or until everyone was dead, whichever came first. And today it looked like they might actually win. In space, the Vorthak fleet was down to less than half its original size. The confusion devices had made their advanced technology useless. The resonance weapons were tearing their ships apart. But worst of all, their crews were beginning to break down psychologically. "Sir," said Communications Officer Morclix, "we're receiving surrender requests from 12 ship captains." Vextar stared at his officer in shock. "Surrender requests? Vorthak do not surrender." "Sir, they're saying the battle is impossible to win. The humans keep fighting no matter how much damage we do to them, for the first time in his 1,000-year life." Vextar felt something that no Vorthak had ever felt before. He felt the desire to run away. The humans had broken something fundamental in the Vorthak mind. They had shown them that superior technology and military might weren't enough. They had proven that sometimes the smaller, weaker, seemingly inferior species could win through sheer determination. "Sir," said Crix quietly, "I recommend immediate withdrawal." "Withdrawal?" Vextar repeated the word like it was in a foreign language. "Yes, sir. If we stay, the entire fleet will be destroyed. And if the fleet is destroyed, the humans will have won completely." Vextar looked around his bridge. His crew, who had never shown fear before, were all watching him with desperate hope that he would order them to flee. "Send the withdrawal signal," he said finally. As the surviving Vorthak ships began to retreat from Earth, something unprecedented happened. The humans didn't celebrate. They chased after them. "All ships, pursue the enemy," ordered Captain Yuri. "Don't let them escape, human."